League of Legends revolutionized the MOBA genre when it was released in 2009, and it still has a huge reach in the video game industry. But how much has it changed since its initial release? Hi, I'm Jetset with the Leaderboard, here to give you the detailed outline of the game's history in then versus now, League of Legends. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. Riot Games. Before we get into the game itself, it's important to talk about the developers behind League of Legends, Riot Games. The company was founded in 2006 by Brandon Rise Beck and Mark Trindamere Merrill in Los Angeles, California. The pair were USC roommates, and they were so inspired by the popular Warcraft 3 mod, Defense of the Ancients, that they wanted to create their own game studio. They felt like the mod ushered in an entirely new genre in video games, and they wanted to capitalize on it. Beck and Merrill hired Steve Gwinsu Feek and Steve Pendragon Meskin to start Riot Games and begin production on League of Legends. Feek was the original designer of the Defense of the Ancients mod, while Meskin was the administrator of the support base for the mod. Riot Games went from a small startup with 4 original members to one of the biggest video game companies in the world. In 2017, it was reported that Riot Games had over 2,500 employees. In comparison, some of the other big video game companies like Ubisoft and Namco Bandai have a little over 4,000 employees. This is saying a lot, especially since Riot Games only has one game under its belt, while the other game companies produce multiple games within a year. Riot was initially given $7 million by a few capital firms to get started. In 2015, League of Legends was estimated to have brought in $1.6 billion. Billion, with a B. It's fair to say that League of Legends has benefited Riot Games immensely. Free to play. In the early alpha and closed beta tests, the store never existed, and all of the content was made available to testers. On October 10th, 2009, the store was officially added just days before the game's open beta. However, champions are not all locked, and if there's a certain character you want to try out, it's possible to do so without paying for anything. League features a 10 champion rotation every week, which means players have a chance to try out different characters without paying a dime. The only downside is that if you happen to really love a certain champion, it means that you'll have to either put in hours into the game and unlock them with Blue Essence, or cash in on some Riot points. In November of 2012, Riot revealed that their peak amount of monthly players per league was 11.5 million, which was huge for the game's success. Since that year, there have not been a lot of reports of League's monthly players, but in 2016, Beck and Merrill confirmed to Polygon that the game had over 100 million monthly users at the time. Not too shabby. The biggest incentive to play League of Legends, besides the fun and addicting gameplay, is the champions. League originally launched with 40 playable champions, which were Alistar, Amumu, Anivia, Annie, Ashe, Blitzcrank, Cho'Gath, Corki, Dr. Mundo, Evelyn, Fiddlesticks, Gangplank, Heimerdinger, Janna, Jax, Karthus, Kassadin, Katarina, Kayle, Malphite, Master Yi, Morgana, Nasus, Nunu, Rammus, Ryze, Shaco, Singe, Cyan, Sivir, Soraka, Tarik, Teemo, Tristana, Tryndamere, Twisted Fate, Twitch, Veigar, Warwick, and Zillion. Right from the beginning, Riot had a deep pool of champions to choose from. This offered a lot of diversity at launch. There are now over 130 champions in the league, with no sign of stopping. Riot continues to tweak and patch champions to make the game feel as balanced as possible. The first champion to ever get an overhaul was Kayle, and this showed that Riot was committed to making their characters work. A lot of champions have gotten slightly reworked, while others have been completely overhauled in order to stay competitive. The first champion to be entirely reworked was Karma. Reworking her kit gave Riot the opportunity to improve any champion they felt could use a refresh in their playstyle. Back in 2016, lead game designer Greg Street told Engadget that he does believe there might be a magic max number for champions, but he admitted that it was probably a huge number and that Riot is nowhere near reaching that number. In fact, he noted that it would be many years until the game reached that theoretical number. He also mentioned that showing off new champions to players is one of the best feelings, and he doesn't want to lose that feeling. At first, Riot was releasing champions left and right at a rapid-fire pace, but now the release of champions has slowed down a bit, and that was intentional. Street wanted his team to focus on a conscious effort to make every new character the best quality they could be. Maps. You would think since League launched with 40 playable champions that there would be a bunch of maps available at launch too, right? Well, that wasn't exactly the case. The game launched with 2 maps, Summoner's Rift and the Twisted Treeline, and since launch, only one other map has been added to the permanent rotation, the Howling Abyss. League never needed a lot of maps to be successful. It just needed unique characters, fun gameplay, and committed support. The Summoner's Rift is the bread and butter of League. It's what's played primarily on the competitive level. And while there aren't a lot of maps in League, Riot has put a lot of effort into Summoner's Rift. In May 2012, Summoner's Rift had a complete graphical and technical overhaul to better serve the game and its rise to fame. In 2014, the map was actually remade entirely from scratch. The map's layouts and paths remained unchanged, but Riot wanted more clarity within the map itself. Some of the features implemented were particle effects, which help players focus on combat rather than background environments. worlds. Overall, the update was necessary to keep the map relevant and solidify its future within League. Summoner's Rift has also had unique cosmetic updates for certain releases like the Winter version, Autumn version, Blood Moon version, and the Arcade version. Matches can last a fairly long time within League, especially since Summoner's Rift is the biggest map in the game and features 5v5 combat. The Twisted Treeline map helps to balance that out a bit. The map features 3v3 combat and is smaller overall. Both of these features allow for combat to happen more frequently and for more combat advantages overall. This makes the game feel a little faster and rewards players who prefer the combat-oriented method in League. The newest map, Howling Abyss, features the game mode ARAM, All Random, All Mid, which was an incredibly popular custom game mode in Summoner's Rift. It's become so popular that at the time of this video, it's the only custom game mode to have been turned into an official mode by Riot. There was once a fourth map in League, the Crystal Scar. The map was used to play the now defunct game mode Dominion, which focused on faster-paced matches. However, as League evolved as a game, fewer and fewer players were drawn to Dominion. Ultimately, Dominion was cut after 4 years since it no longer fit the developer's vision. Fans of the game mode were rewarded for their loyalty with the once-in-a-lifetime Summoner's icon. To qualify for the icon, you had to have won 100 or more games of Dominion, and I'm one of those players. Although the Crystal Scar isn't permanently dead, its assets occasionally show up as part of League's map rotations. It now features in-game modes like Ascension and definitely not Dominion, which is 100% without a doubt definitely not the retired game mode called Dominion. Gameplay features. When League first launched, there were a few key features missing that were quickly added within the first couple of years. In February of 2011, Riot introduced co-op versus AI, which is extremely helpful for new players. It gave them the chance to try out the game's mechanics without having to get beaten up by seasoned players. In May 2011, Riot introduced the Tribunal, which allowed players to submit reports on other players and discipline them. Every discipline option was available aside from permanent bans. However, in 2014, Riot removed the feature so that it could be improved, and a better method for punishment could be introduced. This culminated in the automated player punishment system that we have today. Riot introduced an important update in January 2012 that allowed colorblind options. Prior to this update, colorblind players had to use custom options and configure their own settings to make the game playable. Riot has since continued to support the update and has refined it to make it as easy as possible for colorblind players. While League of Legends was dominating the PC world, Mac users didn't initially get to experience an official way to play the game. iLol was an entirely fan-made, third-party client that allowed Mac users to play the game. However, it was buggy and not a very reliable way to play. Thankfully, in March 2013, Riot released the official Mac client beta, and the game has since moved out of beta and is available to all Mac players. There's a happy ending for the creator of iLol, Cohen Hendricks, who later got a job working at Riot. He's currently an associate development manager at the company. At launch, players had no guarantee that they would play the role they wanted. However, in March 2014, Riot introduced a mode called Team Builder, giving players the option to choose their champion and position. However, this mode was discontinued in 2016. Elements of it were incorporated into the unranked PvP mode Draft Pick. Riot also made a change to the queuing system at large, allowing players to select their primary and secondary roles in all modes before queuing up. Well, other than the intentionally random mode ARAM. Esports. League of Legends has arguably one of the biggest esports scenes in the world. However, it started from rather humble beginnings before becoming the juggernaut that it is now. The first ever World Championship took place in 2011 at the DreamHack event in Sweden. 8 teams competed for the championship, which saw Fnatic taking the final round and the $50,000 grand prize. While the championship game only had about 100 fans watching live, this was still a huge milestone for both League and esports as a whole. It only took 1 year for everything to change. The 2012 World Championship saw a huge increase in viewers. This time, the event still took place at the USC's Galen Center with over 6,000 people in attendance, while over 6 million people watched live from around the world. The championship series also introduced the Summoners Cup. Getting a bunch of cash for winning is always great, but having an actual trophy to take home was monumental. The cup was massive, weighing in at 70 pounds, and took nearly 300 hours to make. The first World Championship was more of a showcase of North America versus Europe, but the 2012 games had Korea, China, and the League of Legends Master Series region competing this time. The tournament had tough battles and a lot of upsets within the brackets, but ultimately the Taipei Assassins took home the championship and the $1 million cash prize, which was considered one of the biggest cash prizes in esports history at the time. League continued to dominate the esports scene and still does to this day. In fact, the League finals are frequently held in Madison Square Garden and consistently sell out. They sell out 18,000 seats consistently. Not only that, but the 2016 World Championship Championship is the second most viewed esports event in history, with over 43 million viewers. It's only bested by the 2017 Intel Extreme Masters in Katowice, with 46 million viewers in multiple games. However, the League World Championship safely holds the fourth most viewed event spot as well, meaning that League of Legends events take up almost half of the top 5 most viewed esports events of all time. Once again, I'm Jetset, and thank you so much for watching League of Legends Then vs. Now. What's your favorite moment in League's history? Did we miss anything? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. And if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the Leaderboard, your home for video game facts.